Hey guys, it's Hidan'sHeathen. Today I'm going to be talking about Armin Arlert's amazing evolution in Attack on Titan. This video contains spoilers up to manga chapter 137, which is the third to last chapter of the manga. But I will be writing pretty much chronologically and will put up this spoiler warning screen for any anachronistic manga references, so you can skip ahead if you haven't read yet. So, let's begin. Armin's first appearance in the show is in the first episode, when he is getting beaten up by bullies and Eren and Mikasa come to his rescue. This scene immediately establishes the dynamic between Eren, Armin, and Mikasa, as it showcases that Eren has a strong will, Armin is intelligent, and Mikasa has physical strength. Armin is called a heretic by the local bullies, and it is soon revealed that he is bullied because he desires to travel beyond the walls. Armin is an avid reader, and after reading his grandfather's banned book that describes the ocean, Armin begins to yearn to see as much of the world as possible, even if that meant leaving the safety of the walls. Wanting to travel outside of the walls was considered taboo though. This was established before the viewer even met Armin when the Survey Corps returned from a mission and a bystander remarked that people should not travel beyond the walls and that the Survey Corps is just a waste of tax money. However, it is through Armin that the viewer is able to understand the true extent of the taboo. At this point, Armin had not put in any actual effort to leave the walls. It was just a far-off fantasy for him. Yet, even fantasizing about leaving the walls was too taboo for others to digest, and Armin mentioned that there was even a royal government policy that forbid people in expressing an interest in going outside of the walls. Armin also sparked Eren's desire to see the outside world, although Eren's desire to go beyond the walls was more of a desire for ultimate freedom rather than a quest for knowledge like Armin. Armin also doesn't initially express a desire to join the Survey Corps, and he completely understands why Eren's parents disapprove of Eren joining. However, Armin's more naive outlook on the world outside of the walls is quickly crushed when the Colossal Titan destroys the wall for Hidan'sHeathen. This event signifies the first step in Armin's long evolution. When the wall is first breached, Eren and Mikasa run towards their home to retrieve Eren's mother. Armin, realizing that this was a suicidal move, finds Hannes and gets him to retrieve Eren and Mikasa, which saves both of their lives. Despite being terrified and in a completely irrational situation, Armin was able to maintain rational thinking, which ended up saving them all. This is a trait that Armin continues to exhibit throughout the series. This event also spurs a change in the way that Armin thinks. For the first time in his life, Armin understands just how much of a risk going beyond the walls is. Despite that though, Armin is not deterred. Rather, this experience gives Armin's need to understand the workings of the world a new sense of urgency. It also redirects the way in which Armin conceptualizes going beyond the walls. Armin realizes that he can't just go on a casual voyage past Wall Maria. The best way of achieving his dream of seeing the ocean is to join the military, specifically the Survey Corps, even though he recognizes that he is physically weak. This brings me to Armin's next stage of development, which occurs during his early military career. Armin's military career had a rough start, to say the least. Immediately after graduating from the training corps, the Colossal Titan attacked the entrance to the Trost district, and Armin was assigned to the middle guard with Eren, Thomas, Nak, Mina, and Milius as a part of Squad 34. Armin then literally watches Eren lose a leg, and then the rest of his squad mates get eaten in front of him. When Armin freezes in horror at the events unfolding around him, the bearded Titan seizes this chance to eat him, but ultimately fails because Eren sacrifices himself to save Armin. Armin then reflects upon the nature of the world and blames Eren's death on his own weakness. It is through Armin's view of the world that the viewer is able to understand that Armin has a low self-esteem and despises his perceived physical weakness. When it came time to tell Mikasa of Eren's death, Armin was terrified, but Mikasa doesn't blame him. Instead, she refuses to leave Armin behind, and she rejects Armin's increasingly suicidal tendencies despite having just displayed the same behavior just moments before. In this battle, the viewer clearly sees Armin's willingness to sacrifice himself for others for the first time. He clearly feels that Eren's life is worth more than his own, and he gives his gas to Mikasa, basically signaling that he would give up his life for hers. When Mikasa, Connie, and Armin are trying to devise a way to get back to headquarters, Armin's intellect then saves the day. He realizes that the abnormal Titan, that's Eren, is attacking all the Titans around them. So he tells Mikasa and Connie to defeat all the Titans in the vicinity so that the attack Titan would go to HQ and kill all the Titans there. It is through this plan that the people in the headquarters are able to survive getting overrun, and Connie, Mikasa, and Armin are able to make it there safely. After this, Armin gets recognized as a leader by his squad mates, even though Armin doubts himself and doesn't view himself as deserving of this title. When Armin devises the next plan to kill the Titans in the supply room, he asks everyone if it's really okay to follow his plan and expresses doubt that the plan will work. However, his plan is a success, and this experience helps Armin gain a little more confidence in his abilities, which is vital for his speech a few scenes later. Armin's success in getting the troops onto the safety of the wall kickstarts his role as a tactician in the military and paves the way for his future strategic success. I am now going to talk about how Armin changed the course of history through the speech he gave where he convinced his fellow soldiers that Eren is not a threat, even though he can turn into a Titan. After the garrison troops shot a cannonball at Eren, Mikasa, and Armin, they had 20 seconds to decide how they should proceed. Eren gathers that the secret behind how he can turn into a Titan is linked to the key his father gave him, so he comes up with two possible courses of action. The first is that he makes a quick getaway over the wall and then heads towards his basement. The second idea relates to Armin. Eren tells Armin that if he thinks that he can convince the garrison that he is not a threat, then he will stay put and place his faith in Armin. Armin is initially hesitant, but then both Eren and Mikasa tell him that they have faith in his abilities. In this moment, Armin realizes that he was the only one who ever felt that he was weighing down the Shiganshina group. Both Eren and Mikasa had the utmost faith in him, and they never perceived him as powerless or as a burden. Armin is so touched by this that he springs up and claims that he will convince them. He marches towards the garrison, unarming himself while making his way out of the steam. Armin then proceeds to give one of the most moving monologues in the entire show, even though he hadn't even planned his words ahead of time. Despite his grandiose speech, though, the garrison leader's fear prevents him from thinking clearly. Consequently, this scene also displays how Armin differs from most people and that he is able to think rationally even when he is terrified. In the initial stages of the series, most of Armin's plans are formed when he's terrified, which shows that he has the unique ability to stay level-headed, even in the most horrific of circumstances. The garrison leader is about to order the other soldiers to attack before Commander Pixis steps in and claims that he is interested in hearing their story, which signifies that Armin has succeeded in convincing the others to hear them out. This then brings me to my main point on how the scene changed history. Since Reiner, Bertolt, and Annie were all witness to Eren turning into a Titan, it is safe to say that if Eren had gone with the first option, they would have immediately tracked him down and brought him to Marley. The Founding Titan and the Attack Titan's power would have then presumably been passed down to a Marleyan Eldian. Marley would then likely attack Paradis since it no longer had the power of the Founder, and most, if not all, Paradis Eldians would have died or been placed in an internment camp in the subsequent warfare. Consequently, Armin's quick wit and intellect quite literally changed the course of history. If Armin hadn't been able to give his speech with such conviction, Paradis would have been wiped off the map and everyone in the series, minus Bertolt, Annie, and Reiner, would have likely died. When looking at this scene in the context of the final season, it becomes clear that Armin pretty much saved the entirety of Paradis, just no one knew it at the time. Armin then devises the plan to have Eren plug the hole in the wall in the Trost district with a large boulder. When this plan succeeds, humanity gains its first tangible victory against the Titans. Since Armin was the mastermind, he gains a lot of recognition for his intelligence, and he plays a key role in formulating the plans for the Survey Corps from that point forward. Armin's genius is next displayed in the female Titan arc. As soon as the female Titan appears, Armin is able to discern that the female Titan is not an abnormal Titan. Rather, it is a Titan in the same league as the Colossal Titan, the Armored Titan, and Eren. Armin believes that his death is imminent, but after the female Titan lifts up his hood and examines his face, she completely ignores him and starts running towards the rest of the Survey Corps. Then, when Armin meets up with Jean and Reiner, Armin deduces that the female Titan brought the swarm of Titans that decimated the right flank. Jean then declares that they have to slow down the female Titan at all costs, and when he launches a counter-attack, the female Titan spares Armin a second time after glimpsing at his bloodied face. Armin then realizes that the Titan might be someone they know, so he screams out Jean's name and references Eren's nickname as a suicidal bastard right as the female Titan goes to kill him, and lo and behold, she stops mid-swing. He then puts together that Annie might be the female Titan because of her leniency with them and her physical likeness with the female Titan. Reiner, Jean, and Armin are then trapped with only one horse, if you don't count Jean, and Armin then tells Reiner and Jean to leave him behind. This again shows Armin's willingness to sacrifice himself for others and how much he underestimates his own worth. At this point in the series, Armin's strategies have been overwhelmingly successful, despite the fact that his military career had just begun. Armin dying would be a grave loss for humanity, yet he still continues to put himself on the line to save his friends. In this scene, Armin also narrowly avoids making a fatal mistake, as he is about to tell Reiner his theory on the female Titan before Krista arrives with 2 more horses. It is unknown exactly how Reiner would have reacted to such a theory, since Reiner is quite torn between the Survey Corps and Marley, but in the worst case scenario, he would have killed Armin and Jean to prevent the theory that Annie is the female Titan from being spread. After the female Titan was successfully pinned in the forest, Armin then defended Erwin's decision to commence his plan without letting the other Survey Corps troops know their true goal. Armin tells Jean that it is easy to judge a plan after its completion, but it is harder to make the plan because you have no idea how it will turn out. Erwin chose to sacrifice the lives of his comrades for the thousands who live behind Wall Maria. Armin then claims that the people who are able to make the greatest change are those who are willing to cast aside their humanity and sacrifice what they care about. Armin then repeats these words a few episodes later when Eren refuses to fight Annie and it steals Eren's resolve to take her down. Quick spoiler warning for up to manga chapter 137, but this comment can also be related to Eren's rumbling plan. While Eren casts aside his humanity, he is unwilling to sacrifice what he cares about, namely his friends. Eren wants to protect the people he cares about at all costs, and he is unwilling to throw away their futures for the sake of Zeke's euthanization plan. Eren is willing to destroy the entire world save Paradis so that the people he cares about can live freely. Consequently, if one believes in Armin's philosophy, as Eren does, Eren's failure to complete the rumbling can be seen as a result of him not being able to sacrifice those he cares about. Back to the female Titan arc, Armin was also able to figure out that their enemy's goal was no longer about breaking the walls. The enemy human Titans had the chance to prevent Eren from plugging the hole during the Trost arc, but they didn't, which signaled that they had gained a new goal. The only thing that had changed was that it was revealed Eren had Titan powers, so he was able to figure out that Eren was the new goal. During the raid on the Stalhest district, Armin was also tasked with luring Annie into their underground trap. Armin told Annie that the monarchy was going to kill Eren to bait her, but she was still reluctant and asked him if she looked like a good person to him. Armin then told her that he does not believe that people are either good or bad. People only call others good when they are good for them, so it is an inherently subjective term. It's impossible to be a good person for everyone, and Armin tells Annie that if she does not help him, she will become a bad person for him, which leads Annie to change her mind. When Annie refuses to go underground, Armin asks her why she had Marco's 3D maneuver gear, to which she responds by asking why he never questioned her about it until now. Armin responds that he just couldn't get himself to believe it. When Annie pretty much admits that she is a female Titan, Armin asks her if they can talk it out, a trend that repeats during the Marley arc. This scene is key to Armin's development in a few ways. The first is that this scene establishes that Armin is capable of being manipulative when he deems it necessary. Before this scene, it didn't seem like Armin was capable of manipulating someone he cared about, but this interaction showed the viewer that Armin has grown since his days in Shiganshina. He can do darker tasks if he's required to. In addition, this scene cements Armin's preferred course of action when dealing with adversaries: diplomacy. There's a whole section on diplomacy later though, so I won't delve too deep into that right now. When Eren freezes and can't turn into a Titan because he still cannot accept that Annie is a female Titan, Armin then devises an escape plan where he and Mikasa act as decoys, and then Eren escapes through the other exit. Annie smashes her foot down on top of Eren though, and Eren doesn't move until Armin tells him that Annie has already cast her humanity aside, so he needs to as well. Although Mikasa had tried getting Eren to fight earlier by mentioning how she killed their comrades, it is Armin that succeeds in mobilizing Eren to fight. Later, when Hanji is trying to determine whether or not Reiner and Bertolt are connected to Annie, Armin then recalls how Annie changed course towards Eren after she captured Reiner in her hand. Annie examined her hand after Reiner sliced it, leading Armin to the conclusion that Reiner might have written something there and that Reiner and Annie may have been colluding all along. Now I'm going to move on to what I consider Armin's next stage of development, the Squad Levi versus Squad Kenny fight. You may have noticed that I skipped over Season 2, but Season 2 was mainly focused on developing Ymir, Historia, Reiner, and Bertolt. There are two scenes I briefly want to mention though. The first is the scene where Armin tells Bertolt that they are torturing Annie so he gets distracted and they can seize Eren. This scene showed an almost sadistic side of Armin. After debating with himself as to what he needs to abandon in order to bring about change, Armin decides that in this moment he needs to cast away his empathy in order to hit Bertolt where it hurt him the most. This scene highlights that Armin can deal a great amount of psychological damage, even if he occasionally struggles with dealing physical damage. The second scene is the scene where Armin got off his horse to save Jean during Eren's retrieval. Even though stopping was suicidal, he couldn't leave behind Jean, who had grown into one of his greatest friends since the Female Titan arc. Now back to the Team Kenny versus Team Levi fight. Armin's growth is cemented during this arc. When Jean and Armin board the cart Eren and Historia are tied up in, Jean hesitated to kill one of Kenny's lackeys. Realizing Jean's hesitation, she then knocked his blade out of his hand and went to shoot him. It seems like Jean was going to die before Armin turned around and shot her, saving Jean. This was the first time that Armin had killed anything. At this point, Armin hadn't even killed a Titan, so his first kill was another human being. Armin is deeply disturbed by his actions and he throws up after the fight while Mikasa is comforting him. Later, while sitting by the fire, Armin tells Jean that he didn't even think that he would make it on time, yet he managed to kill her before she killed Jean, which means that she hesitated while he did not. Armin is immensely distressed by this fact, as he believes that it means that she is more of a human than he is. Levi then bluntly tells him that his hands are already stained, so there's not much he can do, which Mikasa gets mad at. But then Levi finishes his point by saying that if he didn't stain his hands, then Jean will be dead. The only reason they all made it out alive was because Armin cast aside his hesitation and shot first. This pep talk succeeds in making Armin feel better, but it is still clear that this event has permanently changed Armin and how he feels about himself. This scene also shows how much Armin has grown. Armin used to be someone who physically froze under pressure even though his mind kept working. During the Trost arc, Armin was so initially terrified that he could not even fasten a bolt before Eren calmed him down. In addition, when he saw his comrades getting eaten, he could do nothing but watch in a horrified trance. However, in this scene, Armin's body moved with no hesitation, despite the situation they were in. Consequently, this scene solidifies how much Armin has changed from when he first entered the military. Armin's next major role is in the Wall Maria recovery arc. On the way to Shiganshina, Armin can tell that Eren is frightened, even though Eren wouldn't admit it. To calm him down, Armin shows Eren that he is also shaking, and then asks Eren how he can typically remain so calm when facing Titans. Eren tells Armin that when he needs to steel his nerves, he thinks about what Armin told him when they were younger, how there were oceans, deserts, and fields of ice outside of the walls. When he thinks about that, he can calm down and channel his fear into hatred because the Titans are taking away their freedom. In this way, Armin successfully brings down Eren's anxiety while finding a way to help his own. Armin mentioned once that he feels he understands Eren more than anyone else, even Mikasa, and this instance serves to strengthen that argument. When they arrive at Shiganshina, Armin notices that there are remnants of a fire on the wall, which means that Reiner and Bertolt must be nearby. He singles this to Erwin, and Erwin gives Armin his first commanding role. Armin is clearly overwhelmed by the task given to him, but he doesn't freeze and hastily gives orders, only becoming timid towards the end after he had already given out the assignments. After Armin zooms away, a troop asks Erwin if that was another gamble, but Erwin rejects his words and said that Armin had already proven himself. Since his quick wit had saved them multiple times, Armin is one of their greatest weapons. This is proven a few moments later when Armin realizes that the enemies might be hidden inside of the walls. The reason they keep losing is because they are always one step behind, so Armin thought outside of the box and thought of something that not even Erwin had considered. The other soldiers doubt Armin's intuition, but Erwin shuts them up immediately by firing a red round, signaling his trust in Armin's thought process. Erwin's support gives Armin more confidence, and he immediately starts giving tasks out to the soldiers around him. This is the first moment that the viewer sees Armin's true leadership potential. While Armin had many plans before, this is the first time that he is able to direct others with such confidence. After the Beast Titan makes its appearance, Erwin tells Armin that there are two halves in his plan to save humanity, and that he is entrusting one half to Hanji and Armin. After Armin and Hanji's group nearly killed Reiner, Armin tells everyone to back away since Bertholdt was coming. Armin tries to negotiate briefly, but this fails and Bertholdt transforms. With Hanji missing in action, Armin is then in charge of their strategy, but Armin is horrified by the prospect that they have to fight Bertholdt with just a few of them. For the first time in the series, Armin is so spooked that he can't think properly. Armin had miscalculated for the first time, and it caused him to lose confidence in himself despite the fact that Armin's plan success rate is higher than anyone else's in the series. Armin tells Jean to take the reins, and Jean instructs them to move towards a river, but he tells Armin that while he can read the situation, Armin is the only one who can think of a winning plan. For a while, Armin can't think of anything, but then he realizes that Bertholdt has gotten thinner, which means that they can win in a battle of contrition. He orders Jean, Sasha, Connie, and Mikasa to distract Reiner, while he and Eren defeat Bertholdt. This now brings me to one of the main points of this arc, Armin's sacrifice. To take down Bertholdt, Armin concocted a plan where he would distract Bertholdt and make him give off steam, while Eren used his hardening power to seal the gate and make it seem like he couldn't move. Then, Eren would finish Bertholdt off from above in his human form with his 3DM gear. In order to wear Bertholdt down enough, Armin knew he had to get burned alive. Even though Armin knew he was likely going to die, he lied to Eren for the first time and told him that he wouldn't die until they went to go see the ocean together. Armin then stuck his gear into Bertholdt's tooth, and Bertholdt let off an intense heat, losing his strength as he did so. As Armin was engulfed in flames, he entrusted Eren with his dream of seeing the ocean, and it was the thought that his dream had been passed down that allowed Armin to hold on. Armin fully trusted that Eren would be able to reach the sea, which is why he was able to give up his life. For Armin, that was enough for him. After Armin is completely burnt, there is a flashback to Armin as a child, where he tells Eren the first time they meet that he is beating the bullies by not running away, despite the fact they are stronger than him. This scene parallels Armin's sacrifice scene, as Armin refuses to run away from Bertholdt's heat, and it shows how Armin's resolve hadn't wavered no matter how tough things get for him. Eren then claims that Armin had always been the true hero, and in this moment the viewer is able to realize that this is true. Armin doesn't give grand, heroic speeches that rally the masses, but his actions, intellect, and ability to not run away no matter how tough things become is just as heroic. Next comes the climax of this arc. Levi has to decide who to give the Titan injection to thus keep alive, Armin or Erwin. Although it makes the most sense to virtually everyone to keep Erwin alive, Levi chooses Armin. As to why Armin was kept alive over Erwin, I believe there are 3 reasons. The first reason is definitely more of a contentious reason than the other 2, but since the other 2 contain spoilers in some spots, I will mention this one first. This reason relates to the nature of Erwin's dream versus the nature of Armin's dream. Armin's dream is not built out of any desire for revenge or negative emotions. As Eren said when given Armin's case, Armin never let hatred consume him no matter how messed up things got. He still retained his childlike curiosity as to what the true nature of the world is. Armin simply desires to see deserts, fields of ice, and especially the ocean. In contrast, Erwin's dream was about avenging his father, which is a valid desire, but it necessarily took on darker connotations. This dream, fueled by a silent rage, caused Erwin's plans to take on a devil-like quality that Armin's plans didn't have. While Erwin's plans were certainly necessary, and I would never argue that they weren't, his dream of uncovering the truth seemed to hinder his judgment at the very end, whereas for Armin, his dream only served to make him stronger in the moments before he was burned alive. Erwin was willing to do anything to see his dream reach fruition, no matter what he had to sacrifice. Until Levi asked Erwin to sacrifice himself, Erwin was still considering not going through with the charging plan because he was so hung up on the basement. He thanked Levi for asking him to go through with his plan though, because he knew it was the better option, he just couldn't fully commit himself on his own. With Armin, it's a little different. Armin knew his plan meant he would never see the ocean, yet he still went through with it without needing anyone to encourage him. He sacrificed himself because he thought it was the best option. Armin didn't ask Jean, Connie, or Sasha to sacrifice themselves. His dream enabled him to sacrifice himself because Armin wanted everyone to see the ocean, not just himself. Armin differs from Erwin in that he can put his dream on the back burner and pass it down for others to complete, whereas Erwin could not. Erwin had to see his dream come true and couldn't entrust it to others like Armin. Since they were so close to the basement, it was pretty much guaranteed that the truth would come out. However, just knowing that the truth would come out wasn't enough for Erwin, the way that knowing others would see the ocean was enough for Armin. Erwin even admitted that his dream is more important to him than humanity, which is something that Armin would never think. You may be wondering what this has to do with Armin being selected over Erwin. Well, as Flock said, some people had come to see Erwin as the devil. While his huge gambles sometimes paid off, a lot of people were caught up in the carnage and it had tainted his image over time. Eren was still seen as a fantastic strategist, but his image had become tainted in a way that other strategists like Hanji and Armin had not. I don't say any of this because I dislike Erwin, on the contrary, I really like him as a character, but I think that Erwin's big gambles and the fact that his dream was always his first priority made him a riskier choice in the long run. Erwin admitted that once his dream was realized, his motivation to keep going forward would be much less clear. He told Levi that he was only able to make it as far as he did because he still had to achieve his dream. This likely reminded Levi of his conversation with Kenny when Kenny died. In this scene, Kenny told him that people are only able to live because they are drunk on something. It is assumed that when they lose sight of that thing, they resign themselves to death like Kenny had. Erwin's dream had a clear end in sight, after which his reason to keep living would become more obscure. In contrast, Armin had a much broader dream that even once realized could be translated into curiosity in other things. I believe that this was what Levi was referencing when he said that there is a power in Armin that no one else has, the power to channel his positive dream into other dreams. Even Hanji admits she initially researched Titans out of hatred, but for Armin, a negative emotion never caused his thirst for knowledge, which is incredibly special. The second reason Armin was kept alive pertains to the qualities that the leader of the Survey Corps must embody. The leader of the Survey Corps must be someone who wants to discover the secrets of the world. Very quick spoiler from manga chapter 132, but when Hanji goes to sacrifice themselves to give the group more time, and they name Armin the new leader of the Survey Corps, Hanji tells Armin that he is the only one fit for the position because he never gives up trying to completely comprehend. Out of all of the members of the Survey Corps, the only people that truly yearned to understand the world were Eren, Hanji, and Armin. At some point, the older generation must pass the torch to the younger generation, and the only person that desires knowledge above all else in the younger generation is Armin. Without Armin, the legacy of the Survey Corps wouldn't be able to be passed down to the next leader. Although Armin isn't as complete of a leader as Erwin or Hanji, he is the only one in his generation fit for the job. The final reason is related to the plot of the series. Armin is Eren's best friend. Consequently, Armin is the only character that could possibly prevent Eren from attacking the entire world save Paradis. It is clear thus far in the final season that Eren has become a little unhinged and is launching attacks in the name of Paradis without the military's support. Quick spoiler warning for manga chapter 123, but Mikasa was given a brief chance to stop Eren when he asked her what he truly is to her. Even Mikasa admitted that she messed up when she told him that she is so protective over him because he is family. When Eren recollects his life in the manga, Mikasa's panel is the largest, so he clearly cares deeply for her. But at the same token, she can't stop him. I'm not taking a stance on whether he romantically cares for her or if it's just sisterly love, just arguing that this panel indicates he cares for her despite his harsh words towards her. But since Mikasa couldn't stop Eren, the only one who could possibly stop Eren is Armin, his best friend, which is why Armin needed to stay alive even at the expense of Erwin. While none of the characters, not even Eren, knew that the rumbling would occur when the choice between Armin and Erwin was made, it was clear that both Eren and Mikasa would be immensely distraught if Armin died, and Levi considered this when he made the decision. If Armin wasn't alive, then there would be no one to keep Eren in check, and deep down, I think Levi knew this. Briefly, I'm going to mention Levi's much more personal reason as Erwin's friend. Levi wanted Erwin to rest in peace. Seeing Erwin raise his hand and ask his dad a question slightly disturbed Levi, as it made him realize how chained Erwin is to avenging his father and how he is finally free of those chains. After recollecting on how much Erwin had gone through, Levi decided that Erwin should be able to rest, and that this is a good place to lay him to rest. Erwin had taken on a devil persona for the sake of progress, and Levi thought he shouldn't have to shoulder that burden any longer. In this way, Levi's decision can be seen as a choice to not choose Erwin, rather than an explicit decision to choose Armin. The choice of Erwin over Armin affects Armin's development because Armin feels a great burden at being kept alive over Erwin. Armin explicitly states that Erwin should have been chosen over him several times, and he clearly feels a great deal of stress at the prospect of having to fill the hole that Erwin left in the Survey Corps. Although Levi tells Armin that he isn't Erwin and never will be, it is clear that the other characters look to Armin for strategies and guidance that would have previously been given by Erwin. Spoiler warning for manga chapter 132 again. But this burden reaches its climax when Hanji names Armin the next leader of the Survey Corps, and though Armin has proven his ability to lead, he is still plagued by self-doubt that increased significantly as a result of being chosen over Erwin. Moving on, after successfully completing the coup and exterminating the remaining Titans on Paradis, Armin is finally able to reach the ocean, his primary motivation for going outside of the walls in the first place. Armin and Mikasa take off their shoes and splash around in the water, smiling at each other while basking in the glory of finally reaching the ocean. Armin then reaches down and pulls a shell out of the water, holding it gingerly in his hands as euphoria washes over him. However, Armin's elation at reaching the ocean is cut short by Eren's grim question about whether they have to kill everyone on the continent to truly be free. At this point, Armin lowers the shell because he realizes that although the ocean is there, just as he and Eren dreamed, the significance of the ocean had at some point took on a different meaning for the two of them. It is at this point that Armin found a new dream even though he had somewhat lost his old one. Armin desires to see the world across the ocean in a peaceful way. It is fitting that Armin is holding a conch, as it is in this moment that Armin realizes that they are still walled in the sense that they can't freely explore the rest of the world, much like a conch is trapped in its shell. Conch shells are also a symbol of hope, freedom from ignorance, and civilization, so it is fitting that Armin is holding it instead of Eren, because at this point Armin still holds out hope on resolving things peacefully. Armin wishes to diplomatically resolve the issues between Paradis and Marley, and to prove that they are not the devils they are made out to be. This is Armin's newfound dream. In the years where Paradis was developing and exploring outside of the walls, Armin and Eren formed two different opinions as to how their newfound knowledge should be handled. Eren was skeptical that the people on the continent would ever just let them be free, so Eren leaned more towards a violent solution. Eren claimed the people on the continent weren't wrong in calling them devils since they could turn into titans. In contrast, Armin believed that diplomacy was feasible and the best way. As relations with the Marleyans on Paradis improved, Armin realized that all humans were able to understand each other, they just needed to break the pre-existing notions that others had about them. While some may consider Armin's train of thinking naive, he truly believed that Paradis should have put more effort into diplomacy before resorting to violence. Armin said that what they needed was time to work things out. Armin had always preferred diplomacy over fighting, and he seems to be somewhat dismayed that people always jump into violence before even trying to talk things out. Armin was upset at Eren's decision to attack Marley, and he wondered whether there was anything he could have done beforehand to prevent this attack. In a one-sided conversation with Annie, Armin likened his attack on Marley's port to Bertholdt's attack on Shiganshina, and he questioned if Bertholdt felt the way he did when he was pushed to breach Wall Maria. Armin held the shell he got from when he first visited the ocean in his hands when he talked to Annie, which showed how Armin was still clinging to his dream, despite knowing that now that they had attacked Marley, the future would be paved with violence. For the first time, Armin also questions whether he truly understands Eren anymore. Despite his doubt, though, Armin proves that he does when he sees through Eren's deception a few chapters later. Spoiler warning, but in Manga chapter 112, Eren tries to push away Armin and Mikasa by telling Mikasa that he has always hated her, and Armin that he is controlled by Bertholdt's emotions and is no longer himself. Eren told Mikasa that she only clung to him because her Ackerman instincts made her, and this enraged Armin to the point where he leaped over the table to punch Eren, but Mikasa stopped him from doing so. Mikasa took this as evidence of Eren's claim, but Armin didn't, and he fought with Eren to show his disgust towards Eren's words. After Armin gets beat up, he then asks Eren if what he desired all along was the freedom to hurt Mikasa, and then Armin calls him a slave to Zeke, which enrages Eren, but he drops it. Once Armin calms down, he correctly deduces that Eren was just saying these things to push them away. He tells Mikasa that she is not a slave to Ackerman instincts, and he refuses to believe that Bertholdt's will has enslaved him. Armin then concludes that Eren doesn't even intend to go along with Zeke's euthanization plan. He is just pretending to go along with it so that he can activate the rumbling using the Titans in Shiganshina's wall. This would destroy Marley's army, giving Paradis 50 years before anyone tries to attack them again. In this scene, Armin's intellect shines once more, and it also displays why it was necessary to keep Armin over Erwin, since likely only Armin could have come to this conclusion. Armin then manages to convince Yelena that they are on her side, and the race to stop Eren begins. I'm going to skip over some major plot points because they aren't that related to Armin, and I'm going to focus now on how Armin's self-loathing was steadily built over time before it reaches a climax in Ymir's world. Taking a brief step back, it is quite apparent throughout the series that other characters like Armin and think that he is a good person. However, Armin rejects that label and even expresses skepticism towards the idea that good people as a concept even exist. Armin has articulated disgust towards himself multiple times, at first because he is weak and later because he has killed people, from his first kill during the Squad Kenny fight to his mass murder in Marley. This expression of self-hatred is usually accompanied by actions of self-sacrifice, which cements the link between Armin's selflessness and his self-loathing. Armin is always willing to sacrifice himself to save others, in part because he underestimates his own value. The first example of this is when Armin gives Mikasa his gas in the Trost arc, but it is also seen during the Female Titan arc when Armin, Reiner, and Jean are stuck and there is only one horse, and Armin tells them to leave him behind. Then, Armin makes a dramatic sacrifice to stop Bertholdt, and finally, spoiler warning for Manga chapter 126, but when Connie is about to feed Falco to his mother so his mom can go back to being human, Armin tries to jump into Connie's mother's mouth to save Falco and return Connie's mom into a human. Armin believes that Connie's mother is more deserving to live than he is, but Connie stops Armin and tells Armin that he can't sacrifice a dear friend to get his mother back. Connie reflects upon his failure as a soldier, and then Armin relates with his failure to become Erwin's replacement, something that still clearly plagues him as he thinks of Erwin just before he tries to sacrifice himself. In this section, I am arguing that Armin's propensity to sacrifice himself for others stems in part from self-hatred. When he gives Mikasa his gas in Trost, he had already shown suicidal tendencies, and spoiler warning again, when he tries to jump into Connie's mother's mouth, he brings up his perceived incompetency. In this way, Armin's selflessness is in part driven by an internalized belief that other people are worth more than he is, despite that not being true. After looking at all these events, it becomes clear that Armin's main weakness is not his lack of fighting prowess. Rather, it is his self-doubt. Armin has a lot of things to offer in Paradis' struggle, he just doesn't acknowledge his worth even though others do. Armin, in a lot of ways, saved Paradis multiple times, but his crippling doubt is, in my opinion, his fatal flaw for most of the series. Another quick spoiler warning, and if you haven't read the manga, you should probably just click off of the video at this point, as the rest of the video will contain spoilers, but Armin is able to overcome his self-hatred when it reaches its pinnacle in Ymir's world. After shouting at his limp body about how much he hates himself, Armin is able to pull himself together and stand up to Zeke, which eventually allows him to rally the previous Titans and stop the rumbling. Armin comes to terms with himself in Ymir's world, and it is probably one of the most moving scenes in the entire series, as it shows how much Armin has grown since his youth in Shiganshina. After confronting his self-doubt and self-hatred head-on, Armin is able to overcome his fatal flaw and realize that he is worthy of living, and that since everyone is worthy of living, he has to do whatever it takes to stop the rumbling. I will expand upon the scene more in the next section on Armin's new world, but this scene is so important because it is a scene where Armin is able to overcome the self-hatred that weighs him down the entire series. One of the key points of Armin's character is that he refuses to run away when things get difficult, and since in this instance, not running away means confronting himself, Armin is finally able to push past his self-doubt. When comparing first chapter Armin and chapter 137 Armin, it really becomes apparent how much Armin has grown, which is why the scene is so important. Focusing now on Armin and Zeke's interaction, Armin also displays that he has a very nuanced view on what life itself is. When he is talking to Zeke in Ymir's world, Zeke tells Armin that life exists only to reproduce. According to Zeke, conflict is driven by the fear that stems from the need to multiply, which is why he concocted the euthanization plan. However, Armin rejects Zeke's reductionist argument that life is driven by instinct and biological needs alone. Armin claims that life is all about fleeting moments of happiness, like chasing your friends up a hill, reading a book on a rainy day, or feeding nuts to a squirrel. Life, to Armin, is the collection of these precious moments which have nothing to do with one's biological urge to multiply. This scene exemplifies how much Armin has grown since the struggle for Trost arc. During that arc, after Connie snaps Armin out of his daze, Armin resigns himself to dying in the rear guard because he can't take the hell that is a struggle for Trost any longer. Armin then corrects himself and claims that the entire world he lives in is purgatory because the strong eat the weak. He notes that Eren and Mikasa were an exception as they protected him, but that eventually led to Eren getting killed since he sacrificed himself to save Armin. Armin expresses a deep pessimism that life could be something other than hell. However, when he is talking to Zeke, Armin only mentions positive things about living despite all the trauma he has faced. By the end of the series, Armin had watched most of the people he knew die, but it is through his experiences that he is able to understand how precious life is. It is this understanding that enables Armin to put an end to the rumbling, because Armin realizes that living on and trying to make change is better than just putting an end to Eldian life altogether. Even though the world they live in is hell, there are still moments worth living for, and these moments make Armin glad that he was born. Now, I am briefly going to talk about Armin putting an end to the rumbling. After Armin successfully convinces Zeke that neither the euthanization plan nor the rumbling are viable solutions to Eldian troubles, Zeke and Armin then come face to face with the Eldians who used to hold a power of one of the 9 Titans. These Eldians include Tom Ksaver, Bertolt, Ymir, and Grisha Jaeger. Zeke then concludes that all Eldians are connected through the path because the founder Ymir wants to be connected to them. In an emotional scene, Zeke tells Tom that he was glad to be born simply because it meant they could play catch together, and Armin tells Bertolt that he knows he took everything from him. Zeke and Armin ask everyone to lend them their strength, and then they reappear in the real world with reinforcements. Levi then poetically kills Zeke, finally fulfilling his promise to Erwin to kill the Beast Titan, and the rumbling stops. Jean then pushes a trigger for the explosives around Eren's neck, and Armin turns into the Colossal Titan to finish Eren off. This is where the latest chapter ends, and it is unclear whether or not Eren is really dead. There are some theories that Eren is not inside of the Founding Titan and is using the Warhammer Titan's power to control the rumbling from afar, but Eren's status will presumably be disclosed in the next chapter. In this way, Armin succeeded in stopping Eren. Going back to my point earlier on how Armin was kept alive over Erwin, Armin succeeded in doing what he was meant to, even though he didn't stop Eren by directly talking to him. In this moment, it is clear why Armin was kept alive over Erwin. In my opinion, Armin was the only person who could have convinced Zeke to stop the rumbling. Armin never stopped looking for an optimistic solution, and even when the odds seemed impossible, he held on to his conch shell of hope. Erwin would have likely had a completely different conversation with Zeke, and since Erwin himself was weary of living, it is unlikely that the conversation would have made Zeke realize that since he is happy he was born, they need to stop the rumbling. This is what Levi meant when he said that Armin has something special that no one else has. Armin never loses hope, he never runs away, and he never puts himself above others. Finally, I'm going to get into Armin and Annie's budding relationship. At first, when Armin and Annie started being semi-romantic towards the end, I was a little bit confused because they obviously hadn't directly interacted in a while. But then I thought about it more deeply. When Armin and Annie graduated from the training corps, Annie tells Armin not to join the survey corps and to join the wall corps instead because it is safer, to which Armin responds by telling Annie that she is a good person because she doesn't want them all to die. This statement clearly impacts Annie, and she brings it up again multiple times in the future. The most apparent example of Annie showing clear care towards Armin specifically, though, is during the female Titan arc. As mentioned earlier, Annie spared Armin twice, despite the fact that such a move could draw suspicion towards her identity. When Annie is talking to Armin in the scene where she refuses to go underground, she admits that she doesn't know why she spared him. In addition, while Annie expressed an interest in helping Eren escape after Armin mentioned Eren would be killed, Annie only agreed after Armin told her that if she doesn't help, he will see her as a bad person. In the final moments before she turns into a Titan, Annie only addresses Armin in a positive manner, when she tells him that she is glad she could be a good person to him. Finally, in this scene, Annie only asks Armin when he started looking at her with such a horrified face, ignoring the fact that Mikasa and Eren had the exact same expression. What really kickstarts their relationship is after this though, when Armin became the Colossal Titan and got Bertolt's memories. This allowed him to get to know Annie much better, since he could finally piece together why she did what she did. Armin then routinely visits Annie to talk to her, much to the amusement of Hitch. After Annie awakens after the rumbling melts her crystallized form, Armin and Annie have a heart-to-heart, where Armin confesses his feelings and Annie, after denying things at first, realizes her own. It is clear from this point forward that their feelings are mutual, and Mikasa is able to pick up on it just by seeing the way that Annie looks at Armin. Annie refuses to go with the rest of them on the flying boat to stop Eren, and she and Armin give each other a look of goodbye. A few chapters later, though, when Falco realizes that he might have the ability to fly, Annie, Falco, and Kabi go to assist the rest of the crew in stopping Eren. When they arrive at Eren's location, Annie helps him out in her Titan form, and when Armin emerges from Ymir's world, she helps him escape the jaws of a Titan. So, that's it from this video. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you liked this video. I couldn't include every single Armin moment because he is one of the main characters and hence gets a lot of screen time, but I tried my best. This video took almost a month to make, so if you like it, please consider supporting me on Ko-fi. The link is in my bio. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.